We're recording.
All right. Make sure this is off. There we go. All right, I'll go ahead and call into session the Warrenton Board of Alderman meeting for Tuesday, November 16, 2021. If you would, please all rise, say the Pledge of Allegiance with us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item will be the consent agenda.
We have the regular meeting minutes from November 2nd, 2021, executive session minutes from November 2nd, 2021, and the work session minutes from the November 9th work session with Truesdale.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Cullum. Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum, and Alderman Jaspering is absent.
So motion passes 5-0 with one absent. Next will be public comments. If anybody would like to make any comments to the board, please come forward to the podium. We'll give you 5 minutes to speak. We'd ask for you to state your name and you can state your case. I guess I shouldn't say case, it could be mistaken. Any issues you may want to bring up.
Sound like a judge.
Yeah. All right, not seeing anybody, we'll move on. Next is Board of Alderman comments.
The only thing I have is don't forget about downtown Christmas.
Santa
Coming up
Claus
on the
is coming to
4th.
town.
Santa will be there.
Is that, what day is that?
That's on the 4th.
4th of December?
Yes.
Okay.
Parade is at 5:30.
It's coming up on us real
Quick.
quick. Man, I'm
You still
not.
got a chance to get on the good list.
Is there anybody here who's ready for this? Because it feels like time is starting to fly. I don't know if that's because I'm getting older or what, but I think the month span between Thanksgiving and Christmas seemed like an eternity when I was a kid. Now it seems like, holy cow, where did the time go? It's right there. So that just means I am getting older.
Yeah.
Wiser, better looking. but
Older.
That's just my opinion.
We're going to leave it at older.
I'll take whatever. Yeah,
Wiser, maybe. This could be a tough crowd tonight.
We're teetering. We're teetering.
Well, I'm going to explain a little bit of this before I make my comment here. Traditionally, I always do a Mayoral Holiday, which is usually Christmas Eve. It's something I started when I first took office. Something I'd like to carry on to, but it does require votes. I'll just let you guys know. I know it hits a little different this year, but I'm going to be asking for that Thursday, right? I think that's the way we calculated it up, was a Thursday. For them to have off Thursday and the Friday for Christmas. So that's why it'll be on there. That's what I'll be asking. If you have any questions, I'll answer it if you want to ask any questions. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Mural Holiday on Thursday, December 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Who'd you get for second?
You can get to Del like this.
Okay, we'll do.
He needs to be on the good
We'll let
list.
this go.
Motion made by
On a good
Alderman
list
Crump, seconded by Alderman Deloy. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with one absent. Next will be the presentation of audit results from Alan Schulte, Bolts, Deal and Company, PC. Is that correct? Did I say it right? Yep. Just want to make sure.
Let's deal. Yep. Thank you. As the mayor said, my name's Alan Schulte. I'm with Bot Steel and Company. We did the audit this year. As I was going through this, my notes got a little long, so if I get too long-winded, just give me a little sign. The city received an unmodified or clean opinion, which means that everything's fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. The city did something a little different this year. Dana, along with our help, prepared what we call an annual financial report, so it's a little more involved than the normal audit. It gets submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Program. So they take it, review it, make sure it hits all the, marks that are required by GAAP, in addition to things that they require beyond what basic GAAP requires. And one of the kind of big things that adds is some statistical pages in the back of the financial statements. So one of the big weaknesses in government financial reporting is it's kind of a single year presentation, so you don't really get to see how you compare. Well, when you do this certificate program, there's some schedules that add 10 years worth of financial information. So in the back in the statistical section, you can see 10 years of information, both government-wide and fund financial statement information, plus like major taxpayers, major employers, some other statistics. So it gives a lot more information to kind of help understand what the city's doing beyond just some of the basic financial information you get in a regular audit.
Does that also give us some kind of comparison to other communities our size?
It does not do that.
Okay.
If you found some other communities that participated,
You
they
can
would
just
be
look at it,
comparable. Yeah.
you may have looked at and found an average of those.
It does not do that.
All right.
So it's just a real nice thing. So then after they review it, they give you a certificate and a plaque, say you've met the high standards of the program, and then every year going forward, then that shows up in your financial report saying, hey, last year we got this certificate, we're doing above the bare minimum to be with GAAP. So then in the financial statement, I'll just kind of hit a few highlights. The first section called the Management Discussion Analysis, starting on page 3, gives some discussion of the financial results so you can kind of see where the variances lie. There is a little bit of a comparison with last year, but it's at a really high level. So if you look at page 6 and 7, you can see current assets decreased about $800,000 compared to last year. It was mostly just using some cash from the bond issues for the Interchange Fund. So, it was money you got in previous years from the bond issue. You're using that to, make your improvements there. Long-term liabilities decreased about $3 million due to payments on the various debt obligations, mostly the loan on the new interchange. So you guys collected a lot of tax out there and were able to make a big dent in that outstanding loan. Kind of one thing that looks a little odd, it sticks out, the unrestricted net position is a negative number. So the reason that is it goes back to the interchange. So you guys issued bonds, used that money to build the interchange, which was an expense, but you didn't get the asset because you don't own the interchange. That's a state asset. So because of how that worked out, it kind of made that unrestricted net position negative, but you guys are chipping away at that really. So as you make those principal payments on the debt, that will work its way down. The outstanding loan balance, I think, was about $9 million. So if you kind of factor that in, your net position's really at a plus of about 4. Okay, so that's really good. On the top of page 7, water and sewer fund information, cash was down about $2 million. Again, that was using money from bonds previously issued to do improvements for water and sewer. There was about $3.6 million actually in capital asset additions in water and sewer fund. And then in addition to that, you also paid down about $730,000 in debt in water and sewer. So you're chipping away at that, really nice too. If you look at page 8, there's some revenue and expense comparisons. So the governmental funds, so that's everything except for water and sewer. Grants and contributions were up due to the funding you received for the Highway 47 sidewalks. So that was an increase there. Sales tax was up in 21 compared to 20, due to the Rural King starting in April of 20. So there was a little bit in last year, but a full year this year. So that made a pretty big difference. Property tax revenue increased about 5%, so just a little bit there. Total expenses were up about 1.4%, so you guys kept expenses under control pretty well. Street expenses were up kind of just due to timing of the street projects, and parks was down due to the cancellation of the Fall Festival last year, so you didn't have that expenditure. Water and sewer on page 8, there was about a 2% increase in total revenue. There was about a 4% increase in rates, so that 4% was offset by a little decrease in connection fees. Expense-wise, there was about a $50,000 increase, which was about 1.7%, so you kept expenses in check, and almost the entire increase was due to an increase in depreciation. So as you brought a large chunk of fixed assets online, depreciation then went up. There's cash flow statement on page 23. Kind of just real quick on there, the top section is cash from operations. So last year you had about 2.9 million from operations. The year before it was 2.8, so pretty consistent. So, that's just the day-to-day stuff. We provided water and sewer services. We paid the expenses related to that. And then out of that $2.9 million, then, you have to pay debt, so you paid about $1 million in debt service, and then you also added that $3.6 million in fixed assets. So that all kind of came out of operations as well. On page 18, kind of jumping around a little, fund balance in the general fund increased about $100,000. So revenues, less expenses, plus transfers in from, water and sewer, transfers a little money over to cover the cost that general fund pays for them. Parks also makes a small transfer over. So general fund increased about $100,000. One thing I kind of talk about usually is fund balance in relation to expenditures in the general fund, kind of a reserve type thing. So fund balance covers about 200 days worth of expenses. So you got a little over 6 months worth of expenses in fund balance. So that's pretty good. And since you're a pretty sales tax heavy city, you don't need, like if you were a really heavy property tax city where it only comes in once a year, you would want maybe that number to be bigger. But since you guys get that monthly payment from sales tax, that's a pretty strong number. Revenues were up about $150,000 in the general fund, which is about 3%. And then expenses were up about $600,000, but most of that was the sidewalk project for Highway 47. The Interchange Fund is a separate fund on that page as well, and then that's just used to track the debt issued. When you issue the debt, the proceeds come in and then get spent for the improvements, and then the debt service tax comes in and gets used to pay the debt back. So that all runs through a separate fund to kind of keep it separate. And then in the back, there's another column called non-major funds, and since those are small funds, they just kind of get grouped together. There's some detail on page 51 and 52 if you're interested. So any questions about that? All right, and then I'll talk about the pension a little bit because everybody's usually interested in that, and that's not something you see real often. On page 49 is a schedule. And eventually this schedule will have 10 years worth of information, but since you guys, didn't start until 2015, we're filling up the schedule as we go. So the top half of the schedule is an estimate of what the projected benefit is. So $2.8 million is what the actuary estimates that the payout will be to the beneficiaries when they retire. Okay? The second section is the amount of assets you guys have set aside to pay those benefits. So that's $1.4 million. And then the net difference, the 1.38, is the difference between the projected liability and the assets set aside. So since you guys are kind of new, that number does seem a little bigger, but you're trying to catch up for some of those benefits from people that that got credit before you guys joined, if that makes sense. And then one other thing to kind of keep in mind, because of how long it takes them to get the valuation and everything prepared, we kind of do a 1-year trailing. So this is actually information as of June of 20. So, and if you kind of think back, the market was pretty bad. Then, COVID was kind of just starting. So that gap has probably closed significantly by now. But the reports aren't ready till like the end of October, first part of November. So in order to get this completed, we're allowed to use the prior year's numbers. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. Any questions about anything on there? Loggers does a really good job. Almost all of the cities we do that participate in loggers are at 100% funded. So, and really the government, for the really large plans, they say 80% is good. So you guys really aren't that far off for being such a new plan. So, and like I said, loggers does a really good job of keeping you out in front of it and not falling behind.
So you're saying, in your opinion, we're on the right track for that? In a couple of years, we should be caught up, basically?
Yes.
Since we're so new into it.
Right. And I'm sure they probably had a projected time that it would take. If you look at the next page, it shows what your annual contribution is. And your contribution, that last column shows it as a percentage of payroll. So you guys are contributing about 7% of payroll, which is not a huge amount. Some places are probably 9. It kind of depends on the makeup of your staff as well. If you had a fire department and a police department, then you usually get a little higher contribution rate because those guys are usually able to retire a little younger. So then there's a longer payout. So, having loggers, you're in good hands, kind of is the point.
They retired at 55?
I'm sorry?
I think they retired at 55. And
55, yeah. All right. Any questions about the financial statements? So then those statistical pages start on page 59. So that'll give you some information. If you go, probably the best one is actually page 63, and that'll give you like the 10-year, here's what your sales tax did, here's what your expenses were, and things like that. And then I'll just kind of hit the management reports real quick. Basically, there's 2 letters that you got this year. One just says, the financial statements are management's responsibility. We're issuing an opinion on the information that we're provided. They include estimates. So for you guys, pension and depreciation, probably the big estimates in there. We did make one material adjustment, and it was related to accounts payable, and there was some invoices that came in after year end, and they didn't get picked up, or they got over accrued. I can't remember exactly how it went. It was just kind of a human error thing. So, but we do have to disclose that as part of our requirement. And then there's some graphs. The first one kind of shows general fund revenue. So it's just general fund. You can see some decreases in fines, just because of the COVID shutdown. Charges for service, probably limited to parks, the pool and stuff. Sales tax was up. The second graph shows general fund expenditures. See, police was up about 3%, and then culture and rec was down due to canceling the fall festival. Capital outlays were up because of Highway 47 sidewalks. And then the third one shows some water sewer over the last 5 years, and you can see revenue was up about 1%, expenses were up about 2%. So pretty consistent with the year before. All right, hopefully that wasn't too tedious.
Like going over a checkbook.
Any questions about anything?
I think I'm good.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll hear from Brandy Walters, City Administrator.
Good evening. The first thing that I want to tell you is I sent you guys all an email tonight regarding the press release for a new beef processing facility that's coming to the county, American Foods Group. It's going to be located in the county. Approximately 1,300 jobs coming. It'll be fully operational at a new location in 2024. The wages are above county average. They have an annual payroll estimated of $80 million a year. And a huge investment in our community, which is great news. I wanted to give you guys that information. The next thing that I have, I also wanted to let you know we have the Employees Award Banquet from 11:30 to 3:30 on December 10th. And everybody is welcome to attend. We'll be having lunch. For those of you that haven't been here before, that's a time where we bring all the employees over. We're going to actually do it in this building this time. And we give them all their service awards. We give them lunch. We have prizes. We have some games, that kind of thing. And we just try to get all the employees together for that one time a year. I am asking that we close City Hall during that time so that all employees could attend. But I just need your approval for that.
What was the date on that?
December 10th, it's a Friday.
11:30, 3:30.
We go back to work. The ones that work till 5 go back to work afterwards.
Do you need a vote on that?
I don't think we need a majority, just to know if you guys are okay with that. Otherwise, we need to, in the past, we've brought in temp staff for that, and they come in and they take money or they sit up front. And as everybody knows, staffing right now is horrible.
Sure.
So getting in temp staff is not such a great thing right now. And when we've done it in the past, sometimes it's not always accurate information. So we can either have staff cover that or close the City Hall at that time.
So I'm going to tell you, I'd just prefer to close it.
Yeah.
So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. I think you've got it.
I have another thing that was brought up to me this week was we have a gentleman who helped us organize the Frisbee golf course, and he helped us lay that all out, Corey. And he is asking that we let them, right now it's getting dark at 5 o'clock. So a lot of those folks come out after work and play Frisbee golf. So he's asking that we allow them to come out there and play. We could still close off the park. They would park in the pool parking lot and walk down there. They do what they call glow. They play with glow sticks. They put glow sticks in the baskets, and they put apparently glow-in-the-dark tape on their Frisbees. I don't know how all this works, but that's what he's explaining to me. And so he's asking that we allow that in our parks, because normally our park closes at dusk. So he's asking for that, for them to be able to come out there at 5 o'clock and still do that.
Let me ask the logistics from the chief. What is the logistics of that? Because don't you guys still lock the parks up at night?
We still lock the parks up at sunset, but if they're allowed, if it's all right with you, then we won't run them off.
Is it going to screw up anything with your guys' routine or what they do?
If they're gonna park outside the gates, we'll still lock the gates as normal.
There again, anybody opposed, say nay. I think we're good with it.
Perfect. Then the last thing that I have for you tonight is use tax. That's coming up. We're hearing a lot of that from MML about use tax. I sent you some information. They estimate approximately about $300,000 that would have been from last year. Granted, last year people were working from home, so I'm sure that was an increase. Use tax is what you pay whenever you do internet sales. As far as in our area, currently, Forestell has use tax, Lake St. Louis, Washington, and Wentzville. completely up to you guys. I wanted to bring it to your attention that if we wanted to do it, we as staff have to start working on it to get it on the ballot. If you're not interested, that's also fine as well, but.
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of a split on it. I think we tax a lot, but at the same time, I understand why some cities do it. It's a good revenue, and it's a lot of what their local businesses are losing. So, I don't know that I got one opinion or the other on that. I'm going to let some other people speak, if they choose.
It's a use tax on purchases that were,
Right, internet purchases.
Sure.
So currently, we don't have a use tax, so they don't pay a city's tax when they purchase something online. But if you go to Walmart, you do.
right.
So that's the difference, kind of.
And if I could just go in a little bit detail, because the word use tax does not, as Brandy said, and I think she gave a very succinct explanation, it's an internet tax. You actually can't refer to it as a new tax by statute. I don't know why that's in the statute, but I participated in the rewriting of the statute for the distribution formula, and a couple of things I want to make a point about that I think are interesting and maybe something for the board to consider. You know, if you have a brick and mortar retailer here in Walmart, you take out, because Walmart pays an internet sales tax, you know, that they pay state. They don't pay a local one. So if you order something online, because they've got a situs in the state of Missouri, they don't pay sales tax, they pay the state use tax, which has been in place for a long time. But if you have a store downtown that's paying rent and overhead and utilities that sells widgets, and they can buy it online, they're not paying any local sales tax. They're avoiding paying any local sales tax. You all know that. I'm sure everybody here orders from Amazon. And so you do hurt your local retailers. And one of the things I think is important is, a couple years ago, it was put on the ballot here locally, the motor vehicle titling tax. I don't know if you guys remember that, but people were going to Illinois and purchasing brand new cars, and it was killing the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, and coming back here, and they didn't have to pay a local sales tax, which you guys know, when you buy a car, it's thousands of dollars. And so the it was really hurting Missouri dealers. So the Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the State Chamber of Commerce came and they pushed the legislation. They said, hey, we need to get this passed. My point is, I think we see the decline in local brick and mortar stores. Everybody sees that because internet's picking up. COVID, I think, accelerated that. They're double-digit numbers every year on Black Friday, the amount of internet sales versus brick and mortar for Black Friday sales. There is an equity argument that's part of it, that, you know, but I think to really push an equity argument for the local retailers, your local Warrenton Downtown Association needs to come out in favor of it. So I think it would make sense to see, do they understand it, number one, and number two, are they in favor of it? Do they support it? I'm sure they probably would. I think it was properly explained to them. And three, it's very hard to project how much lost revenue you're going to make up for it, you know? So it's very hard to say, hey, if we do this, we're going to do this project. If we do this, we're going to do this project. So I think it takes, I don't know, Dana, if you've tried to give any estimate to what you think, but I mean, most people go very conservative of what revenue it brings, but it is significant. And the problem is, as your brick and mortar declines, if you don't level the playing field, you'll continue to see, like in COVID, that decline accelerated, and online will continue to grow. I don't know that you're ever going to equalize internet sales tax, but I think, you know, you can really slow that decline of brick and mortar sales versus internet. Now, in this April election, MML and some of the other groups are trying to get, you know, basically an informational campaign, because it's very, you know, it's a very controversial, or it's not controversial at all. It's very hard to understand, because people are like, well, it's an internet sales tax. Well, if you bought that widget on Amazon, then they don't have a local situs, you pay no local sales tax. But you go to a store up the street and you buy it, you're paying a local sales tax, and they're paying rent, and they're paying all these other things that are there. So I absolutely agree, Mayor, with you that, you know, nobody likes new taxes, but there's some complexity to this that's a little different, and it probably would benefit the city to find out what the local businesses wants, because once they understand it, they may be like, we absolutely need this because we're getting murdered. Or they may say, you know what, we use the internet too, and it's not that important to us.
I can tell you, I'd like to see 2 meetings out of it. I know, I feel like we're meeting a lot on a lot of things, but 2 meetings, one informational for the public, so we can explain a little more to the public before we move forward with anything. But a second one would be with local businesses, anybody who wishes to come, send out invitations, we can talk more about it, so we can get both inputs from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be helpful because I don't know if you do it, you're alone, the history of taxes in, in Missouri, because the transactions are still taking place here. They're just not paying local taxes, right? But if you look at taxes, if there's not a community support system where people get excited about it and say, hey, this is about fairness, I don't know that you guys want to put it on I have not seen what the MML is going to do. We're getting to November. I don't know when they're going to start rolling it out, but from a local level, community buy-in, I think is really, really important so that the public understands what you're putting on the ballot, or is it the right time to put it on the ballot, whatnot.
Brandy, you said there were some other communities that are currently doing that locally?
The other communities that I had was Forestdale. Wright City is not going out. I talked to him today. Forestdale currently has it in place. They've had it since 1997. Lake St. Louis since this year. Washington since 1998, and Wentzville since 1996.
And I will tell you, there is probably statewide, and I'm just throwing this number out, I would say of the cities that don't have a use tax that are putting it on the April ballot, the reason why Missouri Municipal League is going to do a statewide educational campaign, I would say probably if they don't have it, 90% of the cities are going to put it on the ballot in April. Just like the motor vehicle titling tax. That was that really goofy language.
So, Brandy, on your perspective, let me ask you this. How long would it take to be able to get something together for the ballot? If we did informational for both ends, could we do it still and do the meetings and you still have time to put it on the ballot?
I think so. We have until, what was do you remember the
January
date?
23rd or 25th is when the ballot has to
We
be
can get you
certified.
that by next
So,
week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in between December and January, let's have 2 of those meetings and we can.
Is there any
forward.
chance of getting either a little more information from Lake St. Louis and Washington? Probably Washington would be a good one.
Or just somebody that's knowledgeable about
Right,
this.
or someone to come and visit with us and give us the pros and cons for their community.
we can find somebody to do that.
I think that would help me.
Or if anything else, get them from the MML League.
I'm sorry?
Get them from MML if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to get some information. Warren County's got a use tax. Remember, they put it on the ballot in lieu of the titling tax. Most of the entities that put the use tax on the ballot all the way back in the day, it's kind of been expanded to the internet sales because some of them has had it since the 80s. It was really for rental of out-of-state equipment is the reason why they put it on. But I think you can get some good information about, honestly, I think in dealing with the motor vehicle titling tax, the best feedback and anecdotal information you're going to get is going to be from your brick and mortar, that are selling, that are retailer brick and mortar, probably everywhere from where you get your hair cut to that has a little retail aspect to it. I think if they understand it, it just makes sense because why does the internet not have to pay all the overhead that you have to pay for brick and mortar?
Well, and I think laying it out here, I'm just going to say it. We don't have informational meetings, or we didn't before, and a lot of people felt like they were slighted. We provide the informational meeting, you don't come, it's on you. If we provide the information and we choose to go in a route that seems positive and what a lot of people in the meeting come back and say positive things about, then we're probably going to go in that direction. But we're providing the informational meetings, just as we did for the overpass, just as we did for other things. That means we are putting out as much information as we possibly can to educate the public. When they choose not to come, can't help that. So that's why we try and turn more towards giving more informational meetings as we can.
That's all that I have for you. I'll get those scheduled.
Thanks, Brandy.
Next, we'll hear from Director of Operations, John Struckoff.
Good evening. First item I have for you tonight is the monthly admin report. I misspoke last month. We are actually 2 short in Public Works, so we're still hiring for those 2. And lifeguards. That's the 2 that we're still looking for employees at. A couple other things on there is we're still trying to do as much as we can with social media posts, communicating with the public. It just went out on social media and everything about the new trash service. It's getting a lot of feedback on that today, so. Yep. So is there any questions on the monthly admin report?
So we had one tournament, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
Did I see that? We only had one tournament?
This summer? Yes.
Yeah. Is that still because of COVID concerns, or?
A little bit. We are talking with TSM to get some more tournaments for next summer. We're trying to work out pricing structures. All that stuff has changed in the past few years when a lot of these bigger, close complexes have come up.
Sure.
So we need to revisit our pricing structure, and I mean, that's not set in stone. So we're working on that in the off season. We have been having some talks about that already. So I'm hoping next year we can get definitely more than one tournament, but
I would
a
love to
bunch.
see
You know,
that,
we're working towards that. So
Excellent. Thanks, John, for not giving that up and looking into that. Any other questions about his monthly report?
No, good.
You got two items that'll be bills that are on the agenda, correct?
yes.
Okay.
Next item's the CMT Supplemental Agreement number 4. This is for the engineering for the North Highway 47 Sidewalk Project. Brian Eads from CMT is here to answer any questions you may have on that. I know some of you probably have never met Brian, the newer alderman. He's one
Good evening. I'm Brian Eads with CMT, project manager. Did the 47 sidewalks and helped the city with the Interchange project too. So I had to be able to drive that today. But
Brian, my question is basically what's this for? Like, if it was already bid out, why are we being asked for more money?
well, the engineering services wasn't bid out, so that's quality-based selection. This supplement is to take us. When we negotiated the contract originally, we assumed a certain completion date for the contractor, and because of delays, it's drawn out longer than we anticipated. As I'm sure everybody's aware, we wanted to get it done as quickly as we can. So this is to keep our inspector out there that works on behalf of the city to make sure things are done to plan. All the federal requirements are made, protect your federal participation on the project. So that's the reason why we have to come back again, is just the delays. And I can go into some details if you need to.
If you could, I mean, for me personally, it just seems like if something was, not that it's your all's fault, but
Yeah.
if they had bid something to the city, and we voted yes on it, what are the delays? And to me, it just seems like the city now is the one that's fitting the bill for these delays.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, that's partially true. So some of the delays were due to utilities not getting out of the way in time. Unfortunately, one of the contractors for the communication companies that were working to relocate, they lost their entire crews to COVID. They had an outbreak in their office, all their construction people. They were in quarantine for a couple weeks, and then when they got back, there was emergency repairs, and the timing just didn't work. So there was probably over a month that things didn't get moved. So the contractor was working the best they could, where there weren't utility conflicts. There were some other issues with utility relocations, and that's really kind of the main reason why of the delays, as well as just some wet weather. Had a pretty wet summer. But yeah, primarily utility issues were the main reason for the delays, which,
So when are
unfortunately.
they projecting now to have this completed by?
Excuse me?
When do they plan on having this completed by now?
Unfortunately, they're probably going to have to demobilize with the winter coming. We're pushing them as hard as we can to get it done before the winter comes so that they can get the construction done. But with the concrete work, there's temperature restrictions on when that can be done. So we're just coming up against the winter timelines that may delay it. I can't say for certain one way or the other if they're going to be able to get it done in time. We had originally planned to let the project earlier than we wind up doing. We had some issues getting final approvals and obligation of funds. With federal money comes a lot of loopholes and restrictions. So we were waiting on Federal Highway to obligate the funds. We were ready to go and let the project. So the contractor got started a little bit later in the spring than we were hoping for. We were hoping to have more of a cushion, basically, is what I was saying, in the fall. And unfortunately, with the delays, with the COVID issues that the contractor working for the communication companies ran into, it just pushed things back.
So I guess what I'm looking at is you're telling me that we'll have to be shutting down because of winter coming up, and whatever day winter is.
Right, yeah, whenever it gets to be that point where...
You know, and then we're going to pick back up in, what are we looking, let's say March.
Yeah.
So we're going to be coming back and asking for another 29,000 in March is my big question.
Well, when the contractor's not working, our guy's not going to be billing the city. I mean, this is, just an hourly rate. So when they're out there working, we have to be on site. So our inspector, Todd, is out here, every day when they're working, making sure that everything, all the plans are followed, all the, paperwork is done. And when they shut down, we shut down, and then, we're not going to be touching that. Now, I can't stand here with certainty to say that, the 6 weeks we have in the supplement's going to be, everything to get it done. I sure hope it is. We want to be done with it as much as you do and as much as the contractor does. So.
Well, I understand all the reasons you just cited with COVID and the crews out, and I don't understand why that's our problem and why we got to foot the bill for that. That's what I don't understand.
If I can jump in, I do want to make one point about the delays, and I think Brian is probably being nice about it, but we hired a property acquisition company for this project. We pushed out, 2 months, 3 months after the deadline for the acquisitions to get the final acquisitions, where we didn't think in the fall of last year, we thought we were going to have to condemn some property. And luckily, through a little bit of wrangling, every time before when we've done property acquisition for a sidewalk or sewer project, the board has gone out and done it. And the mayor's gone out and done it and basically knocked on doors, said, hey, this is what we want to do, and explain it. I apologize, Brian, if you guys are big fans of the acquisition company. We were set back on our heels by using the property acquisition company, which was recommended by MoDOT. And they were not, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, Brandy, but not as diligent as we would have handled it. We would have probably tried to knock out the acquisition in about 4 months, and it took, I think, well over a year. And left us with very little limits at the very end that I believe delayed some of our MoDOT applications. So, I can just say this project has been drug out for a lot of reasons. I think if we did a major sidewalk project, we would probably just do it the way we've always done it, where we go knock on doors and Guy, or, when we were doing the sewer projects, we couldn't have Guy knock on the doors, but, we've always acquired the property or negotiated it ourselves. We used a property acquisition company. I was not happy with it. I think there were some things that they did very poor jobs in following up with. I think there were delays, even at the end when we had some of the issues settled, that I got involved in negotiated settlements, even getting them to follow through on the paperwork. So there are part of the delays with the way we proceeded with the project from the very get-go that I know, at least if my memory serves me correctly, set us back 3 to 4 months just on property acquisition that had them start later. So the delays are not all, and if I'm correct, the way these engineer contracts work, it's an hourly rate not to exceed amount.
Exactly.
So the hours are put in and then verified. It's not like they agree to this $500,000 is for the supervisor services, the engineering supervisor services. It's up to this amount, and then if it exceeds, then those are additional compensation that's made. This is, having the engineer out there supervising it saved our butts on some of our water projects where we were able to make, and also saved us money and saved our, it's very hard to dedicate a staff member to sit there that has the experience and the training to make sure they're doing everything, especially when you involve a MoDOT one. So I just wanted to make the point to your question, Alderman Delaway, about the delays. Part of that was just the fact that we used a company we had never used again, and I will quit if we use them again, because we thought for 8 months they were working on this, and they weren't. And we set them back at least 3 months, which set the whole schedule back, which probably pushed a lot of this project during COVID. So,
Well, it sheds a little different light on things.
well, it does. Brian, as good as he is very nice in the way he approaches it, and I understand that he does not want to throw the city under the bus, and it was not, we hired a company, they were supposed to do it, I think it was people calling from their basements, honestly. I mean, would you agree, Brandy?
So why did we do that, Chris?
Well, at the time, it was not my choice, but at the time, when we were going through this, Guy had he was working on the sewer project. We had just gotten done with the acquisitions for the new sewer main, which took some time and some negotiations and a lot of Guy's time. He was working on that project. It was not really Guy's project, because Guy's really good at it. And because we were trying to get it done quickly, I think the thought by the prior administration was, these guys are professionals and they know how to do it, and they'll take the sapping of staff away from us. We did it because I think we were told this was a good way to do it, and in retrospect, it was not a good way to do it.
We did it because we ran our staff ragged last time trying to negotiate certain things with people who weren't making meetings that were set up and what be it. We were really, besides them doing the regular job, we were running our staff short. So we thought this was the easiest way to do it and maybe bypass running our staff double-timed on things.
And we still had to end up doing
And
that.
we ended up, we ended up eating it anyway.
We ended up doing it
Lesson
anyway.
learned.
And this was 30-some, like 33 or 32
Yeah. And-
acquisitions that we
yeah.
had to get,
And
which is a
MoDOT
lot
wound up
more than
paying for
what.
half of the consultant too. So
Right,
I don't
which
know if that
was-
would have, I don't know if they would have reimbursed the city for your expenses.
Yeah,
on
I
that.
can tell you that consulting company doesn't have nice things to say about me, because when I opened up the files and looked at it, I go, what have you been doing for 8 months? And now we got a month to get it done. And I mean, we were scrambling. We had petitions ready to file.
We still
we send
ended
this
up
bill
going
to
to some
them?
houses.
What?
Can we send this bill to them? Maybe they could call us and negotiate a different deal
And
since
we
they're
had
so
two
good at
big
it.
projects going on at the same time. That was
Sorry,
another
Alderman
factor,
Cullum. I
staffing on the
apologize.
staff and whatnot. But in fairness to Brian, we got out of the gate slow. And because we got out of the gate slow, because we used the acquisition company instead of the way we've always done it, I'm sure that created additional delays in scheduling.
We were calling them too, trying to get,
Yes.
that was part of the, and we were pushing MoDOT as much as we can. It's like, we want to let this project this month, and then it kept on getting pushed back because
I kind of walked over Alderman Cullum. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no, you're fine. And that's what I was trying to say, Brian. I'm not trying to blame you at all, because I get it. You have to be on site. And I get that too, Chris,
Yeah.
that there was delays, but to me, okay, that's great, there's delays, but still, it sounds like if this said company didn't have all these illnesses, which again, I get it, that sucks, but everybody's had that. I just don't think that the city should have to put out that much for their delays, even though we got started late. If they still would have been done a month ago, based on that, I don't know. If there's something and again, not through you guys, but is there a way we can get some of that back through those contracts or those
This is still going to be cost share with MoDOT.
yeah, so MoDOT
So
will
this-
cover
we're not-
half. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is still cost share with MoDOT, which I think it's 64.5% right now, because we paid so much
Because,
upfront.
yeah, you paid upfront, so it's going to wind up being a 50/50.
50/50,
So,
yeah.
they'll go back and even the books at the end to make it 50/50.
And we're
so-
still under budget, it says, which is great, but
Yeah.
I'm a taxpayer too, so I want to try to say.
So our
completely
out-of-pocket's going to
understand.
be half of that number?
Yeah.
Correct.
But it's still accountability for any money we're spending. I mean, I get where
Yeah.
all the aldermen are coming up from, and I mean, I agree with them 110%. I mean, we have to be accountable for the pennies that we put out above, and it's not above a budget item, but above an expense that we expected on the budgeted items. And I agree with it. I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from, and I know sometimes on engineering projects, we're paying 4 times this when guy needs something done or something there. But that doesn't mean we need to lose sight of the accountability, so I do appreciate it being brought up.
Yeah, like I said, it was budgeted in, which is great. I mean, it's covered, thank God, but.
Yeah, and, maybe in hindsight, we don't be as conservative with our initial asks, so we don't have to come back and back, but we wanted to make sure that we were,
Sure. No,
responsible, and that was our initial thought when things were supposed to finish when they did, and we didn't build enough, probably contingency on our original contract, so, because it is cost plus, we're just raising, that ceiling of how high we can go up to, so we're not gonna spend any more money than we have to, and hopefully it's less than this amount, but really I don't want to say we're at the mercy of the contractor, but they're running the show. We're just watching them and keeping track. So we will push them with every legal means we have within the contract and work with the city to do that to make sure things get done as quickly as possible.
Well, and I
But-
think lesson learned for us. We We had great success out of our personnel for doing it. I hate running them tight, but it's probably the best thing that we do because they have more reliability to getting it done and making sure it's done correctly.
Can you explain to them why Todd has to be there every day with the MoDOT fund or the federal funding that
Right.
the requirement is that he has to take the daily logs and
Yep. Yeah, so
just
Todd-
explain that to him a little
Yeah,
bit.
so Todd is our construction inspector. He's there on site every day and keeps log of everything that's done, who's there, does payroll checks, make sure the contractor's in compliance with all the federal laws, keeps track of all the inspections, so inspecting the concrete and other materials, make sure that they follow specs, and all that documentation. It's his job is really just a documentation
It's a requirement.
to make sure that you get those federal dollars back and those state dollars back. So, yeah, if you go in his truck, he's got logbooks stacked up, as 2 feet tall of just daily logs of what's going on. So it's just part of the process of when you're dealing with the state and federal dollars on a roadway project.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. We want attacking you.
I don't think you need to.
Well,
Kinda.
Maybe Alderman Delloy will.
If there'll be questions for you later, I can stick around. All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Next item I have for you tonight is the Schnooks easements for water and sewer lines. This was talked about when Schnooks was built, never followed through with. This is just the easements for us taking over the water and sewer lines on the Schnooks property. It's 20-foot wide easements, gives us room to work on if there's ever an issue. There'll be a bill later on if there's any questions about that.
So we're just taking them over?
Yep.
Who has them right now?
They're privately owned.
So Schnooks has to take care of them?
Schnooks owns them, yep.
This was
There's-
talked about when they first built.
Yeah, there's pros and cons of both ways, but it's better if we would own them. If there's ever an issue, they're connected to our system. If there's never an issue that we would have to lean on the owner to take care of, therefore, it's easier if we just go in and take care of the issue because it could be a health and safety issue.
In other words, we don't have to use that process, maybe waiting and delaying it 4 days because we're waiting for the approval from somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
We've seen that before, too.
It's connected to our system. It's better if we have,
If we have control of it.
To be able
yes.
to dig when we need to, right then and
Gotcha.
there.
John, is that including the outlying properties, or because is there some other lots or something?
So all there is now is what's there now is what we're taking over. So there's a water line coming from 47 down that, behind Walgreens, comes across their parking lot, and then it surrounds their building. That's
Okay.
the water line. The sewer line just goes up to the back of the building and goes out towards the service road. So we're only taking over what's there now. So any future, we'll
do it
have to do
again.
the same thing again.
Okay.
Any
All right.
future development. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see Tim here, so I believe you'll be presenting, so.
Unfortunately, Tim had an emergency, so he's not with us tonight.
Next, we'll hear from Director of Planning and Development, Tim Burks, but substituting for that will be our City Administrator, Brandy Walters.
Tonight, I have the monthly marketing and business support report, which this is Tim's first one, so.
Excellent.
It's kind of, thanks. It's a work in progress, obviously. He has had some contacts with a lot of different development here recently. I do know that in P&Z, we have a few things that's going to be on P&Z in December, so you guys will see that later December, as well as I know of one that's going on January, so that'll be coming forward here pretty soon.
I know
as
we
far
have
as
it here, but
development.
can you scroll up a little bit, Brandy? American Classic Tattoo.
Yes, so there has been a new shop in town
Okay.
that has opened up as well. There was some ribbon cuttings, but those are going to be on next month's report because this was just for October and we didn't have any ribbon cuttings in October.
Great.
So, questions?
I'll boggle my mind.
It is located right next to, you remember where the License Bureau used to be on Veterans Memorial?
Yes.
Right next door.
Oh.
It used to be the bakery, Pam,
Yes.
Pammy Lou's Bakery. That's where he's
Pizza.
at.
Right next to the,
Next to the liquor store.
guy.
Express Liquor.
Have a drink, get a tattoo, Bob.
There you go. Get it all right there.
So the next thing that I have for you tonight is also the preliminary and final plats for Schnooks Commons. So they are taking, they're taking their outlots. They have two lots there. One is 5+ acres. I believe the other one's around 3 acres. And the one has the detention pond, the other one is empty. They're just basically subdividing that. It went through planning and zoning, and the results of that were it passed with planning and zoning 8-0 with 2 absence. And the gentleman here, I forgot his name, Steve, is here from Schnooks if you have any questions for
Document
him.
engineering.
Are you guys any questions you got?
Come on forward, Steve. I don't know that we have any, but come on up.
What, pardon?
I said, I don't know if we have any, but come on up.
No, that's fine. She explained it pretty well. There's 15 acres there. They're cutting it in 3 lots. The existing Schnooks store will stay on one, and then the other 2 will be outlots for future sales. So it's in conjunction with the easements that those were part of a contingency agreed to that would turn the easements over at the time of platting.
I think the plots you're talking about were in the original plan. One was a 30,000 square foot retail that I think they backed out of, but that was the original idea.
Yeah, I can't
And the
tell
other
you.
one was just for future sites. So the
Yeah.
one that was closest to 47, I believe, the 3.60 acres, lot 3. So, and the only reason I'm saying that is because we have aldermen who weren't here during that discussion or when it was developed. So as you see, the store kind of lines there on this one right above or to the north of Schnooks, that was a retail business that actually did back out of the deal from the original thing, which they can't help, but I think that if I remember right, that was a 30,000 square foot type facility that they were talking about. So, just jogging my memory.
No questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a bill later on the agenda for those.
Anything else? Well, that was pretty quick, Liz. Didn't want to read some of the preliminary stuff and all the stuff, go through all that. All right, so next we'll hear from Building Commissioner Mike Ross.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have my monthly report. Got a few highlight items that we're going through. We've got 7 homes under construction now on Hawthorne up behind Walmart. That's going pretty well. As Alderman Corder knows, he's got a house going in on the cul-de-sac back there where he's at. And we've got another house nearing completion on AA, part of the Isaac Kent development back there. Apartment complex number 1 over there that's being built should be ready for occupancy, building number 1 in December.
So I got a question on the one in AA.
Yes.
Now that you say that, they reached out to me asking about who trims up that edge by trying to get into that driveway on
Okay.
AA, because I guess it is heavy with some brush in that area. Is that a MoDOT issue, or is that something we do?
MoDOT, yes.
Can we try and contact MoDOT and see if they can do that if
I
it's
shall.
since
Not a
they're
problem at
asking
all.
us?
The other apartment complexes that are up there that he's got 2 buildings now that are coming close, probably January. Probably the entire project will be probably wrapped up by the end of next year. Lumber prices have finally came back down a little bit and is easing a little bit. Now we're having appliance issues. So,
Why not?
yeah, that's just going with the flow.
So on the Hawthorne Project, jog my memory, who's the developer out there?
With where?
The Hawthorne?
That's Ben Beckemeyer. And as you guys have known, that Adam Pollard had bought all of Ken Hicks' properties. And if you've drove around town and seen the improvement in those, it's made a vast improvement. He's done an excellent job.
Very much so, and I've heard nothing but good things about that whole thing that they're redoing. It sounds like it's going to be an asset now, so.
He has, and he will
great.
continue to, will be, so.
That's great to hear.
Yep. That's all I have, sir.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next word from Chief Police Larry Ellard.
Good evening. I just got one item for you tonight, and that's the monthly report. A couple couple of highlights on there. Some excellent investigation work by our CID led to a couple of search warrants being executed in conjunction with the Drug Task Force, the results of which were pretty decent seizures of some products and a bunch of arrests. And yeah, it was excellent work on their part. And then the night shift patrol guys, with a nice assist from county deputy, apprehended a burglar of a business. And then some more excellent follow-up work from investigation led to the apprehension of 2 more suspects from that same burglary. So some props out to those guys.
Good.
Good. That's great. Good to hear.
Any questions on the report?
Real quick, could you go over the ride-along program, just for people that aren't aware about it or how it works? Who can participate with that? There's an age requirement, or?
If we're allowed to do it still, without the money.
Oh, okay.
I think it's an insurance issue, isn't it? Do we need to probably check with the insurance company?
I don't know how that would work with them. I mean, you can get details on
Gotcha.
how it works.
Oh, sure, if you want to,
Okay. That's why I was kind of wondering, I said four for year-to-date, that's why I was wondering if it was COVID. Okay.
yeah. So
We'll
right
see.
now, if you want to come down and do a ride-along, all you do is show up at the front lobby and ask for a form, you sign a waiver, you can pick your time to go, and you can go. We basically, for the most part, will let you ride as long as you want, within reason.
Like high school students, if they want to do that, that's something they can do, or is there an age limit
I think we've
requirement?
got it at 16 right now. I'd have to look at the form.
So are we any closer to looking at the Citizens Academy again, or with the Explorers program?
Explorers, we're kind of in a limbo with insurance.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to look at getting insurance for that because we were getting it from the Boy Scouts of America.
I get it. No, that's fine.
So the Citizens Academy, if there is interest in that, we can definitely spin that back up. But again, everything was stopped because of COVID, and I'd be more than happy to have it go again.
I'll tell you what, that first class, I've never seen such motivated people to come in and just interest, questions, asking. I think we had one young lady come in and ask if, I think it was Sergeant Mosier could go with her to purchase her first firearm because she was comfortable after the class enough that she wanted to purchase a firearm. I thought that was amazing that she came in and asked and sent a letter, and I think it does. I know it's probably dwindled in the amount of people that want to come participate and time restraints, but I think it was a positive thing for our area. I think it gave people more education to what law enforcement does behind the scenes.
And the same goes with the Explorers. The last group of Explorers we had were super motivated.
I know there's three individuals that were hired on from your Police Explorers program over at the jail in Warren County, and the background knowledge they have has really helped them over there.
If we're not facing restrictions, I'll be more than happy to look back into it.
I think we could do that. If we could kind of just stay on top of it and make sure when we can, we'll try and open that back up. Any other questions?
Nope.
Good. Thank you. All right, bills of ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 73-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Crump.
Ordinance redistricting and setting the ward boundaries for the city of Warrenton, Missouri's 3 wards.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 73-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Porter, seconded by Alderman Schultz.
An ordinance redistricting and setting the ward boundaries for the city of Warrenton, Missouri's 3 wards.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz.
Yes.
Bill passes 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 74-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Quarter, seconded by Alderman Deloy. Is that correct?
Correct.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the supplemental agreement number 4 for construction inspection services with Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated for the 2018 North Route 47 sidewalk project.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 74-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the supplemental agreement number 4 for construction inspection services with Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated for the 2018 North Route 47 sidewalk project.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Corder?
Yes.
Alderman Cullum?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0, or bill passes 5-0 with one absent. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 75-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Crump, seconded by Alderman Deloy. Is that correct? Sorry.
Correct. Yes.
An ordinance accepting the preliminary and final plat of the subdivision known as Warrenton Commons by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 75-21.
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Corder, seconded by Alderman Cullum.
An ordinance accepting the preliminary and final plat of the subdivision known as Warrenton Commons by the city of Warrenton, Missouri.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Cullum?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Alderman Corder?
Yes.
Bill passes 5-0 with one absent. And I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 76-21.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Corder.
An ordinance of the city of Warrenton accepting permanent easements for water and sewer lines located at 499 East Veterans Memorial Parkway.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading of bill number 76-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Cullum, seconded by Alderman Crump.
An ordinance of the city of Warrenton accepting permanent easements for water and sewer lines located at 499 East Veterans Memorial Parkway.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Corder,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum.
Yes.
Bill passes 5-0 with one absent. I'll entertain a motion, I'm sorry. All those in favor to closing the regular Board of Alderman meeting, say aye.
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 All those,
First and second.
Make a motion to close the regular board of Alderman.
And I'll second that.
thanks. Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. We are adjourned.